Shavua Tov. This is Motzei Shabbat, Parshat Shoftim 5775. And the beginning of the Parsha begins, you shall make Shoftim v'shotrim, judges and enforcers on your gates. And this week's coming Parsha is Ki tetzei lamilchama al oivecha, and you go out to war against your enemy. So our sages tell us that here in these days before Rosh Hashanah, we can personalize these messages, which are very communal ideas, in making having judges, going out to war, things that can only be done by the community, that we have the opportunity, and we're charged with doing this for our own private community of ourselves. So we have to be judicious about what we let in to our gates. Our gates being our eyes, our ears, our mouth. These are the gateways into our person, to our soul, and also to what comes out, especially from the mouth, but also even what comes out from our eyes, and to have judges and enforcers being careful about what we allow into ourselves. In the world that we live in, we're bombarded so much by all sorts of information and stimuli that this is a very timely message. Similarly, Ki tetzei lamilchama al oivecha, that you should make war against your enemies. So I said, you say, the Yetzer Hara is our enemy. Now, it's only our enemy because when we don't use it properly. Rav Shimon Schwab explains that the Yetzer Hara, it's usually translated the evil inclination, but it's more correct perhaps to translate it as a selfish impulse, or which can, our sages say, the Hua Yetzer Hara, Hua Satan, Umalach HaMavet. The Yetzer Hara is the same as the Satan, the Satan, the same as the angel of death. It's that part of us that doesn't want to become what God wants us to become. But and originally, the Yetzer Hara is really just to be a servant. You can't have children, you can't have an economy, you can't grow unless there's some sort of an impulse that drives you, and that the very often the fuel is the channeled impulse. And Rav Shimon Schwab explains that the Yetzer Hara is an agent of God, is a malach, that manifests in us, and it's here to challenge us. Like the angel challenged Yaakov Avinu, the Yetzer Hara is here to challenge us, to struggle with us so that we can overcome it. And in fact, the Yetzer Hara knows that it's its mission and wants to be defeated. And a person will truly feel happiest when they control the Yetzer Hara instead of giving in to it. And this is actually even symbolized by the Sa'ir Azazel, the goat to Azazel that we read of that took place on Yom Kippur, and that, and I'll talk about that more maybe in the weeks ahead. But the idea is that the Yetzer Hara, or the Satan, wants to be defeated, because that's his purpose, to challenge us and to be defeated. So there's a mashal from the Dubna Magid that I want to share it the way I remember it. There was a king who wanted to establish more elaborate diplomatic relations with another kingdom, so he took his son, the prince, And he said to him, I'm sending you to this country. You'll speak with the prime minister there, and you'll expand our diplomatic relations there. And he explains the mission to him, and then he says to his son, but one thing, don't take off your shirt. Son thought it was a little bit of a strange request. His father emphasized it, don't take off your shirt. So the prince travels, he arrives, he's welcomed, and during the course of this meeting, the prime minister begins to look very suspicious, and he says, are you really the prince? He didn't have Skype in those days, whatever, to be able to see him with the king. He says, of course I'm the prince. He says, well, prove it. And they have a conversation back and forth, and the prime minister's not satisfied. The prime minister says, I suspect you're an imposter. The prince, of course, is very indignant, because it's not only his honor, but the honor of his father. And the prime minister eventually accuses him of actually being a slave, not a prince at all. And he bets him, 10 million gold pieces, that you're not who you say you are. He knew exactly who he was. And he says, and to prove it, I understand that you are a slave and you have a tattoo on your back that proves that you're a slave. Now the prince was absolutely confident, and he'll bring back 10 million gold pieces to his father. He rips off his shirt. Obviously there's no tattoo there. The prime minister is very, very apologetic. Gives him the 10 million gold pieces. And eventually he goes back on his way. The son is quite proud of himself that he's managed to bring back such a prize to his father. Comes to the throne room. He says his father is really quite miserable. His father, what's the matter? He says, tell me what happened. He tells him the whole story. And he says to him, I bet the prime minister 20 million gold pieces that he could never get you to take off your shirt. When we're challenged, whether it's about working on Shabbos, or whether it's about eating kosher, or who to marry, or whether to keep halachas in marriage, whether we're challenged at a certain moment whether to say a word of Lashon Hara. The Vilna Gaon says a person cannot imagine the enormous reward that a person will get for keeping his mouth shut, for holding one word back. We think that we're going to benefit so much by doing X, Y, Z. Meanwhile, that's just the prime minister. That's just the Satan. That's just the Yetzer Hara that God sent to challenge us. Where in fact, when we would come back, and God is saying, don't take off your shirt. Don't violate Shabbos. Don't violate this halacha. Don't say that word. Because I have a much greater reward than you could ever imagine waiting for you. Don't take off your shirt. Shavua tov. Hamavdil ben kodesh lecho.